Welcome to the next module of the Freedom Ticket. In this module, we're going to talk about how much should you order when you're first starting to launch your first product on Amazon as a private label seller. Now, unfortunately, about 90% of all people who try to sell on Amazon fail. They watch free YouTube videos, they take maybe a course that just shows them just enough just to get them excited and just on picking products and using tools, but they don't really go into the details of the business and the cash flow and what it takes to actually make it on Amazon. So a lot of people come into this, they may have a successful product out of the gate, but they just simply can't sustain the momentum because they bit off more than they can chew. And I don't want to see you do that. The Helium 10 tools are an awesome set of tools that will give you all the information that you need, but you've got to approach this smart. Now, some people would say, and there's some people that are of the school of thought, that you should start with a test order. You know, why go out there and buy 1,000 or 2,000 or something? You want to kind of test the waters first and just buy 50 of them or 100 of them. I'm 100% against that in most cases. I believe you should use tools like Helium 10, learn how to do it right, see where the market opportunities are, and come in and go for it. Now, the only time you might want to do small test buys is if it's a product where there's just no data on Amazon. Maybe you're on vacation in Cancun or down in Costa Rica or something, and you found some cool handmade item down there and you bought 20 of them that just nobody's selling on Amazon. You know, some really cool looking basket or something like that. Or maybe it's a cool looking hammock that's just really unusual. And that might be a case where you might want to test it and try it. Where there's just really no keyword demand, it's hard to figure out using the tools. Will people buy this or not? That's the only time. But if you're doing this right and you're using all the tools and looking at all the data, you should be able to make a pretty informed decision on it and give yourself the best chance of success. Because often what happens is when you start small, some people succeed at that, but a lot of people fail because as soon as you start going, other people will see you and they may knock you off and they may do a better job at it. So I believe come out with all guns blazing and just go for it. And if your first product doesn't work, don't get discouraged. Now, you don't want to spend all your money. We're going to talk about that in just a second. That you have. You want to be conservative with it, because a lot of times, if you ask a lot of the bigger sellers out there, their first product didn't take off. In some cases it does, but a lot of times it might be a break even, maybe a small little profit, but you learn so much. It's like you're getting your MBA in how to do e-commerce and sell on Amazon. So the typical Amazon seller, though, you may have seen me talk about this before, just throws money to the fire. And I don't want you to be that person. Take Johnny here. You know, he's your typical new Amazon seller. Johnny, he watches some YouTube videos, or maybe even takes a paid course or some other course, or maybe even takes Freedom Ticket, and he just skips around and he doesn't watch every module that builds on each other, and he doesn't understand the whole principles behind how to make this work. So he gets confident. He goes out there and he uses some tools. Maybe it's Helium 10, maybe it's one of these other cheap tools to find a great product to sell. He then goes over to Alibaba or one of the other sites. Most likely he doesn't overpay. He orders like 500 units because that's just what the MOQ says it was. So he's like, let me just get 500 of them. And then to launch the product, he has to give away some. He has to spend a lot of money on PPC, which is paid advertising on Amazon. And just to sell 300 units, maybe at break even or a loss, he finally gets onto page one. He's done a good job on his listing. He sells the other 200 units at his normal price, but he quickly runs out of stock. He's like, oh my God, I'm out of stock. He's frantically calling the factory. He's either overpaying to have stuff shipped by air really, really fast, or have the factory work really fast, or he's out of stock for a month or 2 months, and he's lost all of his own momentum. So when he has everything rushed over, he goes out of stock, he loses his BSR, and things just start to go down. Finally, he gets the new units back in, and he regains his rank. He gets another 500 in. He's all excited. I'm back again. I got a few reviews now. He has to do the launch all over again to try to regain his rank and get back up on the page one. So he's basically just spinning his wheels, and now he has about 200 units to sell again, but he still hasn't made a profit when you look at the whole big picture of things. This is a very common cycle, and I don't want to see this happen to you. So what happens is the guy, he says, look, you know, selling on Amazon is too saturated, or it doesn't work. Or what's the next shiny object out there? Let's go run Facebook ads or drop shipping or whatever the next hot little thing is that people are trying to sell you, or this business about selling on Amazon is a scam. I hate Jeff Bezos, and so he quits. I don't want that to be you. You've gone this far in the course, and you're going to continue in the course, and I want you to learn how to do this properly. So what I recommend is that you start with at least 2.5 times your initial inventory cost. So that means if you got $5,000 set aside to start this business, take that $5,000 and divide it by 2.5. So you should be finding products that are not going to cost you more than about $2,000 to bring in. That number is then you're going to back that up into how many can you actually buy and how many can you actually sell per day. And so that's going to change. It may take you down a notch from looking at the big, huge, profitable, big selling products and take you down to something more in the mid-range that's still profitable, but it's not selling as much. And it's going to give you a much better chance and much more realistic chance of succeeding. I mean, let's just take this $5,000 example. This is a little chart that I made here based on $5,000. So you got $2,000 you can spend on your initial inventory. The reason you need to not spend the rest of that money is you're going to need some money for other things, as we're going to talk about in this course, getting pictures made, doing some PPC, maybe paying for some software, and you're probably going to need money if you're successful to actually buy the next round of inventory before Amazon has paid you for the first round. But I can look here, if I've got $2,000 to start, when I'm using the tools from Helium 10, I need to find products kind of in this range. If you look at that middle one there, in the middle of the chart, sales per day is 15. That's 450 per month, roughly 120 or so to rank it. So for an investment of $2,000, I need to find a product that I can get for a landed cost of about $3.51. That's going to sell about 450 units per month. And that's going to get me enough, depending on there's some other factors to this, inventory turns, which we'll talk about in just a second, that will determine how often you turn over your inventory, so how much do you have to order. But these are just rough ballpark figures. This is not exact numbers. This is just to kind of get your mind in the area. So a landed cost of about $3.51. Landed cost means the cost to ship it and the taxes and to get it into Amazon. Your price range you need to be selling it for needs to be about 4 to 9x. I would recommend a minimum of 4. 5 is even better. So if your landed cost is $3.51, hopefully you can sell this thing for about $14, because by the time you pay for your PPC, Amazon takes their fees, some other cost, you need to have a little bit of a margin. I see so many people have a landed cost of $3.51 and they might sell it for $9.95. And if they're making any money at all, it's very little. They're counting on serious volume, and they're just having cash flow. They're not really making money, and they probably have a lot of headaches too. But what if you only have $2,000 to start this business? Well, then you need to find something that you can only spend about $800 on your initial inventory. If you have $20,000 to start this business, you can find something that's going to cost you about $8,000 on your first order. Now, when you place this order, we'll talk about this in other modules, you don't have to put all that money up front. You're going to have like 30% down, so like $2,400 down typically, and then the other 70% when it's ready to ship. But you need to have that money liquid and ready to go. And you have an additional $8,000, because if it starts selling and you start doing good, you're going to have to place another order pretty quickly, because it might take the factory a month or 2 months to actually make the product and get it shipped over, and you don't want to run out of stock. That will just kill your business and kill all your momentum. So because running out of stock it's the worst thing you can do. If you're out of stock for a day or two, it's not going to hurt you too bad. You'll lose a little bit of your rank. You might slide a little bit. You typically can regain that, but if you're out of stock for weeks or months, you're basically starting over when you come back, unless you're just in such a really unique niche that there's just nobody else out there. But those are rare. So you got to make sure you don't stay out of stock. So that's why you got to pay attention to how much you order. Now, there's two things that come in when you're ordering products. There's inventory turns. Inventory turns is how often do you turn your inventory over. For example, Walmart stores in the United States, the big retail stores, their average is about 8.3. So that means, on average, if they've got $1 million worth of inventory sitting on their floor, they're churning through that 8.3 times per year. It's turning over. If on e-commerce, you need to strive for at least 4. 6 to 12 is even better if you can do that. Some people in supplements have like 12, but you need to really strive for at least 4. Because I've made this mistake in the past where the MOQ for a product, I was selling a crepe maker, and the MOQ for the product was 1,000. But I could sell on this crate maker about five. It was somewhere around 5, 6, 7 units a day is what I was able to sell based on the numbers. So I went ahead and ordered 1,000 of them, and that's what the MOQ was, and I wasn't able to negotiate it any lower, and so it was 1,000 MOQ. Well, it took me 6 months to sell those 1,000, and that's not because it was a bad product. It's just the demand for that type of crate maker wasn't huge. It was very profitable. I made 30-40% profit margin on it. It was a great profitable item, but it took 6 months to sell these things. So that's an inventory turn of 2, because every 6 months divide 12 months in a year divided by 6 months, it's inventory turn of 2. That is not the way to grow your business quickly. You can make money doing that, but and a lot of people do, and they're happy with that. But if you really want to scale and get your business to where you can sell it, like we've talked about, you need to get these inventory turns down. And so, going back in time, I would not sell that product. Or if I was going to sell that product, I would try to negotiate better with the factory, or find to get a lower MOQ, or find another factory where the MOQ might have been 500 units. Because that way I'm not tying up all my cash. Even though it's profitable, I'm not tying up all my cash so long. You got to treat these kind of like stocks and kind of like an investment. You want to get an ROI. You want to get a turn really quickly. Now there is a formula that I recommend you use for how much should you order. Sometimes it's the MOQ will do it. Sometimes it's a little bit less. Sometimes it's more. Maybe the MOQ is 1,000, and you really should be ordering 1,150. Or maybe the MOQ is 1,000 and this formula says you should only order 890. We'll try to negotiate with the supplier. Can I just get 890? If they won't let you do that, maybe you can tell them, look, we're going to do big business with you in the future, hoping to order 5,000 units, but I need to start off with 890 just to make sure the quality is good. That there's no problems with the product, something like that. Maybe round that up to 900. You don't have to be on the nose, but this is the formula that I use right here. You need to know the manufacturing time of the product. So how long does it take to make this thing? It's going to sit in the factory for 25 days, 30 days, 45 days. You need to know that in the number of days. How long does it take to ship it? Are you going to do it by air, which could be 4 days to a couple weeks, depending, or are you going to do it by sea, which can be anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks? I always like to say you need 1 month's inventory on hand, because things can go wrong. You need like an extra month of inventory. What if your reorder gets delayed by a customs inspection, or there's a strike at the port, or something happens? So I like to always have a little bit of a cushion of 30 days of inventory. And then I like to start off targeting typically this average daily sales of the guy who's in like 5th or 6th place, whoever my 5th or 6th best competitor is, because in the beginning you're not going to have reviews. The chances of you being the number 1 seller and staying the number 1 seller right when you first launch is not real high. So I like to target wherever the guy is, maybe 4th, 5th, 6th best seller. Take a look at what their average sales are in X-Ray, and whatever their average daily sales are. That's what I'm targeting. So you can get that from X-Ray. They'll show you the monthly sales, but you can just divide that by 30. I know some days have 30, some months have 31 in them, but just divide it by 30. It'll get you close enough. So that's that. You need that number. And then if you're doing a big launch, if you're using the CPR method or one of the other launch methods, you might be doing an 8-day launch or a 10-day launch, or however long, 15 days, depending. However long your launch is, you're going to have those. So if you look over on the right-hand side there on the bottom, it's manufacturing time. So if it was, say, 30 days, it would be 30 plus the shipping time. Let's say I was shipping it by air. That would be 14. I'm going to put 14. Plus 10 extra days just as a cushion for delays and problems where it misses the truck or misses the cutoff or whatever. So we're at 30 plus 14 plus 10, so we're at 54. Plus 30 days inventory, so we're now at 84. Now some people may not want to put that 30 days inventory in there, but I recommend you do. So we're at 84. Plus 10 days of launching, so we're at 94. Times what your target competition sells in a day. So let's say the 5th place guy is selling 10 per day. So that'd be 94 times 10. So I would need to order 940. Now, if you have the cash, you could bump that to 1,000. It's 60 units is not a huge deal. If that's MOQ. You don't have to just beat up the supplier. If his MOQ is 1,000, say nope, I only want 940. Go ahead and get the 1,000. But if the MOQ is 1,000 and this formula only says you need 600, then don't round that up to 1,000 for sure. But now, if you recall from one of the earlier modules, there's actually a spreadsheet that you could download. It was this spreadsheet right here, the Product Evaluator spreadsheet. If you didn't download that, go back and download that in one of the previous modules, and this will do all these calculations for you. So you don't have to sit here and do all this math. If you use the spreadsheet and enter it, right now it's showing here blanks because I haven't entered any information. But once I go, there's these tabs down here on the bottom for all the different the different things. The one that will calculate it for you is this long-term bottom line analysis. In that tab, it will show you number of recommended units based on all the other factors. So you'll go in here and you'll enter. I showed you this in an earlier module, but on the product info page, there's places here where your sales target per day. So that would be your competition. It was 10. The shipping time to Amazon. Would be where in our example that I just said I would enter the 14. The manufacturing time. What did I just say? It was 30. I think I said it was 30. And so this will then calculate this once you enter all the data, and it will actually then do all this math for you. So you don't have to. I know some people are not a big fans of doing math. And if you go to this tab, you see right here, it filled that in to 840 in this particular case. Now, a minute ago I said 940. That's because I added some extra days to it. This one does a little bit more realistic calculations because that calculation over there is a little bit more simplified. This one takes in some additional factors. So you'll see as you enter additional information in here, this will change just slightly. But 840 would be the initial, and probably the reason that number is actually lower too is I probably didn't enter my launch units needed to rank right here. This is why that number. So that was I think 100 in our example, and so you can see this will automatically calculate is around 100 down here, and so then it has the 940. So this will take into account everything for you and it'll calculate it. So try to use this spreadsheet if you can, because it's like I said, it's going to add in a few other factors in here as well. That's in the macro. When you open this spreadsheet, and you're going to see a little pop-up window that says Enable Macros. Make sure you click on that. Otherwise, it's not going to work properly. So make sure you click on that Enable Macros, and make sure you do that. The other thing is some of these cells, all these are protected. You're not able to go in here and see the values in these cells. So sometimes if you try to change one, it won't let you change it. It asks you for a password. That means it's a protected cell. It's a calculation, and we don't give away the calculations in here because there's a lot of people out there. Since you're getting access to Freedom Ticket here, there's a lot of people that might take this spreadsheet and kind of like put it out there and steal it and make it their own, put their name on it or something, and we don't want that happening. So that's why we don't allow any modifications to it. So hopefully this has helped you on determining how much you should order. Remember, MOQs are almost always negotiable. They're not usually fixed in stone, and hopefully this will make sure that you don't overorder, you don't underorder, and give you a better chance of success. Now, what happens if you do overorder? If you order 940 and just everything goes to a heck in a handbasket, and just you do your 100 giveaways for the launch, and you sell some, you do some PPC, and you're just not getting the turns. Well, the thing to do in that case is there's deal sites. Everything from there's all kinds of deal sites out there that we talk about these in the Helium 10 Elite that will actually sell through your inventory for you. You can run, if you're eligible, you can run lightning deals or deals of the day if you're eligible for those. We'll talk about those in some of the later modules. Or you can lower your price and just try to get sell them through and get your money back. But no matter what happens, you're going to learn a tremendous amount, whether you have a runaway hit and you're off to the races, or it's just a moderate success, or even if you just hit a roadblock and things just don't work out. Now that could be a number of factors. It could be other competition comes in on the same product. It could be your photos aren't striking a chord with people. It could be your listing price or the way you wrote your copy or the keywords you're using. And when we get into one of the later modules on setting up your listing, we're going to talk about a lot of things that you can do there to try to give yourself the best chance of making sure these 940 sell like you plan for them to sell. So we'll see you in the next module.